Warning: the material discussed in this show may be sensitive or a trigger for some listeners. Strong language and topics are discussed. You have been warned.
The Bipolar DM, Jason Caughton. His show talks about Dungeons and Dragons, indie writing, and living with a mental illness, in particular bipolar disorder, borderline disorder, and major depression, among other diagnoses. Check us out right here on Saturdays, 7 p.m. Eastern, also on WLFE-DB.com, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. So take a seat, sit back, and get ready for the Bipolar DM.
Welcome to the Bipolar DM show. I am your host, Jason, the Bipolar DM. This is a show about Dungeons and Dragons, indie writing, and living with a mental illness, in particular bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, and major depression, among other diagnoses. If you want to get a hold of me, you can reach me at my email account, which is thebipolardm@gmail.com, or visit my webpage, www.thebipolardm.com, and there you'll find previous episodes of my podcast, as well as links to my live show, previous episodes as that, as well as WLFE-DB.com, resources on indie writing, Dungeons and Dragons, and mental illness. We also, for those of you on Facebook, we have a Facebook fan page, and that is the handle at the Bipolar DM, and that is a little bit more up to date than the web page, just because it's an easier platform for me to work from my phone or on the go, to post videos, articles, as well as other updates on a regular basis. For those of you who are fans of the show, we do have a Facebook group page, and the name of that page is The Bipolar DM Nation. Just do a group search on that, and you will be able to pull us up. And this is more of a behind-the-scenes look at the podcast and show, in which you can see kind of how the sausage gets made when we're putting this together, as well as my live updates informing you kind of what it's like to live with a mental illness on a daily basis. Be sure to check out WLFE-DB.com, as well as Strim TV. We are on Variety Unlimited. That is the name of our channel. We have not only my show, but we have other shows as well. Everything Yet Nothing, Real Talk with Dom, Paratalk Radio, and many others. And really happy to support my fellow my fellow broadcasters as much as I can. We have new shows coming up as well. So keep up to date on that, especially at our WLFE-DB Facebook page. We are putting updates all the time on there. Also, I'm very proud to be a supporter of the Safe Space. For those of you who are not familiar, Safe Space is a place created for individuals who feel marginalized to come together to communicate regarding their experiences with marginalization, most commonly located in university campuses, but also in workplaces. And so this is a great place for social and emotional wellness support. And we have resources such as the National Crisis Resources, the Trevor Project, as well as Trans Lifeline, Human Rights Campaign Healthcare Equality Index, the GLMA Health Professionals Advantage, and It Gets Better Project. We are way into supporting, mental health and the mental well-beings of our listeners, and want to let you know that, wherever you are, no matter what you're going through, there is a safe space for you, and for you to check us out. If you have any questions or like to learn more about Safe Space, go to WLFE-DB.com. Click on the Safe Space button. It's very prominent right in the middle for more information as well as resources on that. And so on today's show, very happy to have Broken Jarhead on board. They are hosting the Military Podcast Day. They have this as a national day on October 5th, so really excited about the show today. Also, in news and noteworthy coming down the pipe, we have an interview with Dr. Francisco Cusso from Australia. He's a clinical psychologist who had done his thesis paper on Dungeons and Dragons and mental health and therapy. And so we'll have that coming up in the next couple of weeks. We're still nailing down the dates because he's in Australia. He's about 15 hours ahead, so time zones and days are different. So be looking for that. Next week, we are going to have Dungeons and Dragons on May 1st. And so we'll be playing a game again. I had promised that we were going to go overtime, but good news, bad news. Good news is we got a brand new show on our network starting at 8 p.m. On Eastern Standard Time called Sofa Guys, and they are a movie review. And so, in support of our new show on the network, we are designing the game to end at the end of the hour. So, we should have it to have the boss battle finish before the end of the hour, and then go right into our sister show, the Sofa Guys, and they start right after us. So, really excited about that and supporting them. And let's go ahead and bring on Broken Jarhead.
Hey, how's it going?
It is going great. Love to have you on here. This is awesome. Well, let's go ahead and just get a little background information on you. Just broad strokes, no specifics, just because of OPSEC. And for those of civilians who don't know what OPSEC is, look it up. I'm not going to explain it. For those of us in the military, we know what it is. Let's start off. What branch of service did you serve in? I know based on just the name alone for your podcast what branch of service you served in. But for those civilians who don't know, where did you serve?
Marine Corps. So I did 5 years in the Marine Corps. We're called Jarheads. So
Yep.
that's where the name comes from.
And where did you do your boot camp?
It was in Paris Island. So and I was in the middle of the summer. So I had all the sand fleas and all that excitement. So it was a lot of fun.
Okay. And and just real briefly and broad strokes, what was your job in the Corps?
So I was trained in signals intelligence, which deals with intercepting enemy communications, working with some of the top secret stuff. We would gather out in the field and then bring it back for the interpreters and analysts to put together, and then identify targets for the crews to go out and take out. So
Yep.
yeah, basically finding the bad guys in the nerdiest ways possible.
Yeah, I got a couple of nephews who are doing cyber warfare now for the Army. I'm real
Okay,
proud
yeah.
of them. That's the fourth generation of my family straight to serve active duty in the military, going back to World War II to my grandfather. So we got four generations of my family that have done active duty service, and they are doing the cyber warfare right now.
Cool.
I actually started out in military intelligence myself when I first went in. I was an interrogator in Arabic, and I was out at DLI Monterey, California.
Yep.
By far, of any place, every duty station I've been in, one of the most beautiful places I ever been.
Yeah, it's nice.
Unfortunately, one of the best party places ever to go to besides Rota, Spain, which unfortunately affected my academic career. And so I had to change MOSs to combat medic because I had too much fun in Monterey.
Yeah, that's a lot of stories from Marines coming out of Monterey. They end up coming over to our side because they partied it up too much.
Yeah. Beautiful town. Love to run out there at sea level and stuff like that. But yeah, had too much fun. And now, but I'm proud to be a combat medic and to have served. And now let's go ahead and get into your podcast. What was it that got you into podcasting altogether?
So, man, a couple months ago, I would never have assumed I'd be having a podcast. The entire company started just as an out, a therapeutic out. So, Nick, my co-host of the podcast, he's an actual like drawing artist, and I do a lot of the digital stuff. And so we used it as an out just to kind of get what was in our heads, out on paper. It helped with stress, anxiety, that kind of thing. And by passing it around to other veterans, they liked it and it just kind of snowballed. So we had that going, we had a blog going, and then some people said, hey, I remember, because Nick and I were in the Marine Corps together, we were in the same office, and some of our friends said, hey, we used to love to just come in and hear you guys bitch back and forth. And so we first started as a weekly show, it went to 3 days, and now it's 5 days. We didn't have a lot of time to put into it because we still work full-time jobs plus the business and everything. And so we decided we'll go 15 minutes unscripted, fan submit topics, and everything's completely impromptu. So it feels good. It's nice to get it out. A lot of veterans use it for therapeutic reasons. And the more we researched them, the more we saw and we felt the same thing. So one of our buddies we kind of refer to ourselves as anti-podcasters because we
Mm-hmm.
do everything wrong, like
Yeah.
transitions, all that kind of thing. There
Yeah,
is
all
none. It's just,
backwards.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's kind of as an example to just our buddy who is serious, Shannon over the basic vet. He's like, just do it. Just pick up a mic and do it. And that's what we did. And it's significantly easier. And so that's what we try to get other veterans to do is just talk, man. Just go at it, see what happens. So
Yeah, and that's how I started too. I started out with a 15 or so minute podcast I always said it was infrequent because sometimes, because I had to do it based on my moods. So sometimes it'd be every week, sometimes it'd be like 3, 4 weeks, even a month between podcasts. But personally, I mean, doing those 15 minutes, doing the show was very therapeutic to me. And then when I got my break on WFE-DB to do an hour-long show, it was a bit of a step up to do that, to go from a solo podcast for 15 minutes to an hour-long show with guests and stuff like that. And I personally have found having this podcast or having this vlogcast, however you want to call it, has really been very therapeutic for me and has connected me socially with a lot of people out there that I normally would not have met.
right, yeah, absolutely.
Like Dr. Kuso out in Australia. I mean, man, that's a guy on the other side of the world right now
Yeah,
that I'm
yes.
communicating with, and it's awesome. And what are some of the therapeutic benefits that you have found for veterans and active duty with podcasting?
So some of it is, especially in the Marine Corps, is there's a negative circling, I guess, or I don't know the word. It's looked down upon to go get help.
Yeah,
And so one thing that we were realizing is, so I went and got my own assistance after I got out of the Marine Corps. And it helped significantly. And so I started sharing that with other people, just say, hey man, like, don't go to the bottle to do it. Like quit
yeah,
drinking if it's a problem, like learn to control what's in you. And so when you're in the military and specifically Marine Corps with a lot of the stuff that we see, you compartmentalize it and you don't
mm-hmm.
deal with it. And those are the type of things that after they bottle up for so long, they that's what causes PTSD. And
Yeah,
so one thing that helps with us, and that's not, our show isn't for everybody. It's very crude, but it's very real. And
mm-hmm.
so, we may be talking about super inappropriate sexual things, and
Yeah,
then we can flip into like, what's the worst thing that you saw in the military? And like one of the worst things I saw was ISIS throwing babies onto a hot hood over fire, and they just popped, you know and
mm.
it's terrible, and a lot of people won't share that because they want to protect the civilians or common folk from experiencing that or knowing that. But
Yeah,
for us, it's therapeutic to talk about. Like, it's terrible, but it
mm-hmm.
happened and we saw it, and bottling it up will only cause you harm. So, our podcast, a lot of civilians have listened to it and left reviews, because we try to make a joke about everything.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously we're not joking about babies dying, but
Right,
you know what I mean?
right,
Like, we
but
try to
yeah,
steer everything
a
towards
lot of dark
uh,
humor,
yeah,
military
dark
humor. Yeah,
humor. Yeah, so but that we have discovered just in the short time we've been doing it has helped us. It gives us something to look forward to. when we're, feeling shitty at work, we'll just call each other or text each other and it's like, hey, I can't wait to record. I have something to talk about. It makes you kind of realize your surroundings a little bit more. And so now all of these annoyances that normally would take a veteran and make him want to just snap, it becomes a humor thing. And you start writing these things down so that you can talk about them. And so instead of being angry about them and letting them affect you negatively and mentally, you write them down and you turn it into a humorous thing. And it gives you, it makes you always looking for something to make a show about instead of being negative about everything that's around you.
Yeah, I know from my personal experience as a combat medic, although I was in between wars when I was in the late 90s, we had a lot of shit coming through. Especially with Bosnia going on. I was on air evac, doing air medical evacuation in Washington, D.C. The embassy bombings of Kenya and Tanzania with the women and children and civilians coming over that we brought over. And other things that I saw and had to do as a combat medic working ER and ambulance. At the moment, it was nothing. It was
Right. Yeah.
nothing. And then, but when I got home and I was discharged and I had nothing but four walls and silence
Yeah,
and what
exactly.
was going on in my head, it became something.
Yeah.
And it's still something.
Yeah, I had a buddy actually recently. He's been listening to the podcast and he called me, I think last weekend, and he said, "Yeah, man, I just kept replaying this over and over in my head." He was responsible for a targeted drone strike that destroyed an IED factory. So there's no telling how many people he saved, but in doing so, uh, a a young kid happened to be riding his bike through and died. Gets blown up, right? So it's not a military age kid. And he said, I had this moral dilemma of if I hadn't have done it, if I hadn't been there, that kid would still be alive. But then how many people would die that I don't see? And he's like, just listening to the podcast and that kind of thing, it made me actually just sit down and realize the human side of things. He said, because at the time I didn't think anything of it. It was what it was. It was collateral damage. And he said, but when I got alone is when it started haunting me. And he's like, listening and to what you guys talk about and that kind of thing, it just kind of helped me settle down and look at the human side of things. And so, yeah, that's the kind of thing we want to hear, is facing that stuff and stop compartmentalizing it, stop bottling it down, and just deal with it. Don't let it haunt you.
Yeah. And that is a big thing too, because we're real bad about that. Military, unfortunately, I mean, even now, I mean, it's gotten better.
Yeah.
But even in the Army, and I know from I'm a Navy brat on top of that too. So I grew up, my first 22 years of my life was military. I was born in a Navy hospital. I graduated from a DOD high school in Japan. I went right I did a little college, but then went right into the military afterwards because from the age of 6, I knew I was going in the military. I mean, that was just it.
Yeah.
The only question was what branch of service, because my dad had actually forbidden me from joining the Navy because he got passed over for chief a couple times, and he got treated pretty bad. The Navy, unfortunately, they don't always treat their personnel with the best and utmost respect.
Yeah, yeah.
And he wanted me to go into the Air Force, and I'm like, fuck that, I ain't going into the Air Force. Love the Air Force guys. Had a good buddy who just recently passed away, who retired from the Air Force. All of a sudden, a real sudden thing, a real shock to the family. But we rag on each other in different branches all the time, and that's just military. That's what we do.
Yeah.
It's all in good fun, especially when the Army-Navy game comes around. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Best Army-Navy game was when I was at DLI. Our barracks was right next to the Navy barracks.
Yeah.
And actually, we had the higher ground. So we were uphill from them. So during quarter and halftime, we were throwing shit at them and ragging them and stuff like that because we were beating the shit out of them on that game.
Yeah.
Somebody painted, they had a big, huge anchor in the front of the barracks. Somebody painted it pink during the night, and this is not like some small anchor. This is off of a freaking carrier.
Oh my God.
One of those big, huge, 15, 20-foot anchor. And somehow a couple of high-speed soldiers decided to paint that thing pink in the middle of the night and pulled it off.
Dang.
Yeah, and of course, in retaliation, some Marine Corps guys used gasoline and painted USMC on our front lawn in gasoline and killed all the grass. So that took a couple months to get rid of.
Yeah, we always kind of take it over the top.
Yeah. But it was always in good fun. And command, they understood that.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, we could have had Article 15s out the ass and stuff
oh, of
like
course.
that,
Yeah. Builds morale,
but
though.
but it was all in good sport, and we repainted the anchor and all that good stuff, and we moved on with our day. But we love having that inter-service rivalry, and now we
Oh,
got
yeah,
the new
absolutely.
one out there, Space Force, to rag on.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to meet my first Space Force Ranger and start ragging on him.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and I think that's something that helps when you get out too, is putting the angry piece of it and having that camaraderie, and just dealing with other veterans, because that's the thing. I mean, the 22 a day isn't just one branch, right? That's veteran wide.
The
And
veterans
so
across the board, yeah.
absolutely, yeah. So all of them are dealing with something, and being able to come, band together as brothers and sisters, and actually provide that moral support. That's what it's about. I mean, that's one of the things that we do, is we try to say the quiet stuff out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Not that we're some popular people, but I talk about my problems with alcohol. I talk about my getting help in therapy and that kind of thing, when a lot of people don't talk about it. And if someone
Yeah.
wants to be negative, fuck you. That's basically my answer, right?
Yeah.
So if and so we feel what we're doing is helping to reduce that veteran suicide. If it's just a cheap laugh, or if it's just makes them say, you know what, if they did it and they're laughing about it and they seem happy, maybe I'll try it, right?
Yeah.
Just give it a shot.
Yeah. And that's our big goal, is to put down the bottle, put down the gun,
Right.
and to talk about it, because
Yep.
I know I've been dealing with veterans admin for 20 years, since the day I got out. There are problems in Veterans Administration. It is not perfect. We are screwed over. We were promised a lot of things when we came in, and Congress and the politicians didn't come through with their promises to us.
Right.
And it's up to us as veterans to take care of our own. And so 22 a day, for those of you who are not familiar with that, 22 veterans every single day commit suicide, plus one active duty service member. And that's just an average. Some days it's higher, some days it's lower, but that's what the reality is 22 a day. And part of what we do as military veterans on these podcasts is to end the stigma of mental illness, end the stigma of depression and PTSD and other disorders that affect us, from what we've seen, from what we've done, from what we have experienced. And so it is so important for you veterans out there. If you are struggling right now, there is help. There are people that are willing to listen. We got the Veteran Crisis Hotline to call. They're specially trained, and when you press 1, that 1-800 number I got listed at the bottom is the National Suicide Hotline. However, if you press 1, as soon as you get on there, that will plug you into somebody that's specifically trained to help veterans. And so I highly encourage you, if you're having any problems at all, call 1-800-273-TALK or 8255 and press 1. Get that help. Go to the VA. Be your own advocate. That is the biggest thing that I push, is being your own advocate, because nobody else is going to speak up for you in the VA system. Yes, they got patient advocates and stuff like that, but you know what? They're undermanned and overburdened, and there's not enough of them. And so as veterans, we got to be our own advocate, and we got to be advocates for each other as well. So going into the next part, actually, before we go into this next part, which is the National Military Podcast Day, let's take a quick commercial break, and then we're going to pick up after that, and we're going to talk about your new project, which is National Military Podcast Day, which I'm really excited about. Cool. So everybody hang tight. We are going to go to commercial real quick, and then we'll be picking back up in just a moment. just before we pick up on that, I have a comment in the comment box. Just to give a
Uh-oh.
little context. Nothing bad, but
Oh,
I do want to kind of give a little disclaimer about the VA system. There are good VAs, there are bad VAs. I have been to some of the best VAs in the world. I have been to some of the shittiest VAs in the world. Birmingham, Alabama was one of them. There was bullet holes in the side of the wall. It was in a combat zone downtown. One of the best ones I've been to is San Diego, Balboa. Outstanding VA
oh yeah,
system. The one
Balboa
I'm
is
at right
great.
now is Fayetteville. It's okay. It's right middle of the road. But yes, there are good VAs and there are bad VAs out there. And so everybody's experience is different. But again, be your own advocate within the VA system. All right. Now,
We always say it's kind of like McDonald's.
yeah.
McDonald's, I love McDonald's, but there's always that one McDonald's that their Coke is always flat and their ice cream machine is always out. It's kind of like that.
Yeah, exactly. And it is strange where you have that breakup where you just some regions they have great VA facilities and they're run really well, and other ones are just total shit.
Yep.
I mean, literally just shit. And I've seen some horror stories in some of those, and I've seen some great stories in some of those too. So don't let that be, as a veteran, don't let those horror stories be a reason not to go get help at the VA.
Oh,
Whether
absolutely.
it's a mental illness, whether it's a heart condition, no matter what, the VA is here for us. It is our hospital. It is for us. So, you know, just putting that out there. Yes, there are good VAs out there, but there are also some really shitty ones too. Now, let's get to this, which I'm really excited about, which is National Military Podcast Day. So, what is this all about?
So, again, we basically at Broken Jarhead, we just stumble around, and
Yeah,
and that's pretty much how this happened. So, Nick and I started having pretty good success early on, getting a lot of downloads on our podcast, and so being the normal alpha male Marines, we were super arrogant, and we were like, we're gonna go out and we're gonna win a podcast award. So it was half joking, but then obviously we're gonna look. So when we started looking around, we saw the iHeart and we saw the People's Choice and that kind of thing. We couldn't find anything that had to do with veterans. Now we don't have to have veteran everything. We're not like that.
yeah,
But knowing what we knew about why a lot of vets are doing it, we thought it would be a cool idea. And so really the podcast awards came around first, and so we decided we were going to try to replicate these podcast awards, not the iHeart because they have millions of dollars, but the People's
yeah.
Choice. And we realized we could do it. No offense to that guy, but we could do it a little bit better and make it ours. And
Hmm.
so I have a marketing degree, and so I just put that to use, and we got custom trophies and that kind of thing. But the problem was, I know we'll talk about that more in a little bit. The problem was we had booked the awards ceremony, well, booked on September, whatever it was, 31st, I think, which is International Podcast Day. And one of our pre-register guys said, "Hey, just so you know, that's when the People's Choice actually happens." So I said, "Oh shoot, okay, well let's see when like the next podcast national day or something is."
Hmm.
Couldn't find anything, and we said, let's see if we can do this. And so we filed the paperwork, paid the fee, and we established National Military Podcast Day. So we put it on October 5th for two reasons. One, it was still kind of close to International Podcast Day, but then also on the 6th and 7th is when the war in Afghanistan started. So the
Hmm.
6th is when they kind of staged, and the 7th is when we had movement. So that's kind of geared towards the post 9/11 vets, but it's kind of one of those, before we do a day of remembrance, let's have a day of celebration. And
Hmm.
specifically for the Military Podcast Day, show these vets out there we've done something for you, um, give you something to look forward to, give you something to celebrate, and encourage you to either keep doing your podcast, don't quit, or start one. And so just another thing that we can say, hey guys, we did this for you. It's this is our thing now, right? So yeah, we're pretty excited about it. It seems
Yeah,
pretty unreal that we just have a national day.
Yeah, I mean, I went to the National Archives earlier today.
Yeah, yeah,
It's on there on the National Archives, October 5th, National Military Podcast Day. So this is a
yeah.
legitimate, real holiday that
I've
we
looked at
have.
that like 20 times because every once in a while I'm like, there's no way. And it's like, yeah, it's
Yeah,
still there.
yes, it
So
is.
yeah,
And that is
pretty cool.
awesome. Now let's start off with who can register for this podcast. Obviously, military, but military and veterans, active duty military veterans.
Yeah.
What are some of the qualifications that you have for registering?
So the actual Veteran Podcast Awards, we named it Veteran because statistically in our research, there's more veterans that make podcasts. But you can be a veteran, you can be active duty, you can be a reservist, um, or you could even, be the Coast Guard.
Yeah, yeah, the puddle pirates.
Exactly. Yeah. So when you're registering, you're just going to have to show proof of service. Obviously, redact, personal information, that kind of thing. So it could be a redacted version of your DD-214. You could have the VA's e benefits verification of service, something like that, just so we can see that you are a veteran or a military member.
Yeah, your
We
blue
had some people.
card or your brown card. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, something like that. We had someone ask if military spouses can do it, and no offense to them, but no, it's specifically for military. We respect you and we appreciate everything that you do, but this is specifically for military members.
Mhm.
And then the other requirement is that your podcast is listed on Apple only, so that we can have a kind of a vetting ability, just to ensure we don't have too many like outlandish
Yeah.
people just spamming, right?
Right,
But
right.
that's it. Make as long as you have an the RSS is approved by Apple and you have proof of military service, you can apply. It's free. So yeah, everything is completely free. The award is a golden warhammer because what says veteran podcaster better than a bludgeoning tool with
Yep.
with a microphone engraved. So yeah.
Yes, it's so cool. I can't wait to see the picture of that too.
Yeah, I was supposed to have it today for this. You were going to be my first person to see it.
Oh
And then
man.
the trophy lady didn't have it. So we
Okay.
fired her. No, I'm kidding.
Okay, now for voting, how is that going to work?
So how we're going to do it this year, it's probably going to change next year. But because we're still small and we're probably not going to attract like, Jocko, who's just got thousands of listeners. It's going to be completely listener voting. And so, in order to keep people from just showing up just to vote for that one podcast and then disappear, we're going to have each of the 19 main podcast categories, and
Okay.
every person that comes to vote will have to register on the site to make sure they're not a robot or something, and then they'll have to make a selection under each of the categories. So that's the main requirement. That way,
Okay.
if someone, everybody's going to get vote. Every category is going to get a vote. We're going to have all the podcasts listed on the site. As soon as you register, your podcast will show up with a little profile. People can go in there, read your story, get your links, that kind of thing, listen to your stuff. And so our hope is not just to get people to come vote, but actually get involved and listen to these veteran podcasts and get podcasters, downloads and subscribers and that kind of thing. So,
Yeah,
so
that's
that's
great.
yeah,
Yeah, I like that idea of increased exposure of
exactly. Yeah,
our podcast, so that they're not only looking, so not only would they be looking like for my podcast on there, but then they'll be exposed to almost over a dozen more other
exactly. Yeah,
ones that they can
exactly.
listen to. So that is an awesome way of doing this. So that not only are you helping promote podcasting for the awards, but also listenership as well, which
Absolutely.
is outstanding. Where can they find this? Find the voting? Is that available yet? I mean, no, I know voting hasn't started yet, but where would they find this?
Yeah, so if you go to veteranpodcastawards.com, that has information about the Military Podcast Day. It has information about the site. You can see the rules, all that kind of thing. You can watch a video, and you can go ahead and subscribe. so that you get notification. We're not going to spam you and try to sell you stuff. While our business is a for profit, we are not using we're not using this as an avenue to market our stuff. So we're not going to spam you with a bunch of stuff. And then once you're subscribed, you're going to get notifications when registration opens. You're going to get notifications periodically when registration closes, all that, fun stuff. Just important stuff, not like 15 emails a day or anything wild like that.
Okay.
So yeah. And then I forgot to tell one thing. Not only we're doing the Warhammer, we decided to up the game a little bit, and we're going to give away a Shure SM7B microphone. So if you're not a podcaster and you don't know, that's what Michael Jackson used to record Thriller. So we figured if it's good enough for Michael Jackson, it's good enough for veterans.
Yeah.
So we're going to do that giveaway. So if you register for free, you get a free entry into the award. And then if you buy a shirt or something that, is for the podcast awards, you're going to get another entry. And then we'll just draw it, and yeah, completely free to you. So
Okay. When does registration open?
So registration opens May 1st, and it'll run through the end of July. And then I think August 7th to September 10th will be voting. And then we'll close voting. We'll notify the top 3 podcasters in each category that they're the top 3, so they can make like an acceptance award, or acceptance video. And then October 5th, we'll air it live, announce the winner of each category, and give away the mic.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
All right. And we touched a little bit on it, but what are kind of the future plans that you have for this podcast award and Military Podcast Day coming down the pipe? What are kind of some of the things that you kind of want to do with it?
Be a sellout and make millions of dollars. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
So I actually,
that's the American dream.
Yeah. So after we talked with the pre-screen, I went ahead and activated the forum. So the forum's there. We have one person who has contacted us, and they were actually interested in like a repository for all of these podcast awards. So our aim with the website is that after the awards are done, it's not just see you next year, but that you stick around. We've teamed up with people that work in mental health field, people that do podcasting for a living, that kind of thing. And we want people to use the forums for all of that. Hey, I'm just starting in podcasting. What do I need to do? I'm an idiot, something like that.
Yeah.
All the way to how has podcasting helped you mentally. So we want it to be kind of a place that people can come, share stories, interact with each other. Just in case something happens on Facebook and we get deleted or whatever it may be, we always have a place to come and be ourselves. We are moderating it. So if, someone's just acting like a jerk, we'll take care of it. But if you're just pouring out your heart and you say something that Facebook may not like, we'll allow it and we'll moderate it. So I think that'll help people open up a little bit.
Yeah, and of course with military language and how we talk,
my
great example of the military language is from the movie Boondock Saints with what was his name?
I can't remember his name. I know exactly.
Yeah, no, Del Rosso or something like that. Anyways, dropped the F-bomb like 28 times in one sentence, and every single time he used the F word, it had a different meaning. That's kind of how it is in the military. I mean, whenever I come on to a new job and they're like, oh, we kind of talk like this and that, I'm like, dude, I was in the military. I don't think there's anything that you have said or even done that I haven't done myself or said myself or haven't heard. So there's no surprises there.
You cannot offend me.
Yeah.
So, but, and then the flip side of it on top of that, with just the awards in general, our goal is to make them as big as any other award. We want to get companies signed up. Like, we would love for Shure to donate a microphone and be a sponsor and get involved in that kind of thing. So that's our goal too, is broaden this awareness and make more people want to surround it. So,
and podcasting is the one of the new medias out there, especially now with everybody on lockdown.
Oh
They
yeah.
got sick and tired of watching reruns of Big Bang Theory and stuff like that. They want something new to listen to.
Well, I
And
think
so,
everybody's sick of politics and everything else too. Like
yeah.
so many shows these days, everything goes to politics. Like it's the easiest thing to just go to. And so I think that's one nice thing with podcast is if you want a political show, you can get one. If you want one that leans right or left, you can find that. Or if you want one that's like ours where, politics doesn't exist,
Hmm.
you can have that as well. And I think that's a big draw to podcasting too.
Yeah, I mean, look at mine. I mean, I do Dungeons and Dragons, indie writing, and mental illness. I mean,
Yeah,
who the
exactly. Yeah,
hell thinks of those three combinations as somebody in the military?
exactly.
And which leads right into my next question is how does one? I mean, I know how I did it, which was bass backwards. But how does a vet get into podcasting? How do you start?
So, um, I think one of the easiest ways is so find a place to record it on. Some people use Audacity. Some
Hmm.
people use Zoom. We use Zoom because Nick is out in Utah and I'm right outside of DC, and you can record there. It's quite easy to find that. So find your place where you're going to record and how you're going to record it, and then just get a mic. The easiest way. So like this whole setup is a more advanced setup.
Hmm.
You can just go to my first thing was at Target and I got a little snowball mic.
Well, that's what I
Um,
got.
yep, there you go. Yeah.
Little
And it
snowball, which is
it
great, or a
exactly.
Yeti.
Yep, and it plugs directly into the computer. So like mine, I have cords and stuff all over the place. You don't need all that. Just plug the thing in and start recording. If you have a Mac, you can record on GarageBand. That's actually a very good tool for free.
Yeah.
Um,
Easy Audio's been real good
yep,
too. I
yep,
started out on that. That's a great free program, Easy Audio,
yep. And
to work
then
from.
yeah, so basically what you're doing is you're taking your audio and then you're putting it on to some place that will host it for you. So you can get a free version like I think Red Circle,
Hmm.
things like that. If you want to do live, this one, the StreamYard. But
Hmm.
if you just want somebody to hold your stuff without getting technical, Red Circle is a good one for free. And then you get a little, it's called an RSS code. It's like a special link, and you submit it to Spotify or Apple or wherever you want people to listen to, and it gets approved, and that's it. From there, you just start talking. Like our script is nothing. We don't have a script.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah, this
can,
is mine.
yeah, see,
Little
yeah,
index
exactly.
cards,
Little
with some
outline.
notes. Yeah.
Some people write out a big script. Just find a genre that you like, murder mystery, something like that.
Oh yeah.
Whatever you like, just do it. That's the best thing. That was the best advice that I received from a podcaster that actually takes this serious. Uh, is just talk. And especially if you're a veteran and you don't know what to talk about, just talk. There's a lot of civilians that want to hear your stories. There's a lot of Marines, the military that want to hear your stories, and just talk about your life, talk about boot camp, talk about when you were a kid, anything. Talk about how much gas was when you were 10,
Yeah.
and it'll just start happening. But the worst thing to do is keep putting it off because you don't think people are going to be interested or whatever it may be. If people aren't interested, forget them.
Yeah.
Do it for you. And
And
I think
everybody starts
that
out rough
genuinity.
too.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I sound
We
like an
all
idiot.
start out rough.
Yeah, I mean, I still sound like an idiot, but yeah,
Yeah.
do it. If
Oh
you
man,
do
I
it
still
for
have my fuck ups all the time. Hey Genevieve.
yeah, if you
Not
do it
speaking about you, of course. No, I'm talking about my own fuck ups. So
if you do it for you, I think that genuinity, if that's a
Mhm.
word, will show through, and people are going to listen just for that. So don't pretend to be something you're not. Just be yourself, and
Yeah, don't be a PX Ranger.
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Just do it. So
All right. And how about and going along those lines, what do you do or what's your recommendation for keeping content fresh?
okay, so I mean, this is my biggest thing is every day instead of finding something, especially as a veteran, and especially being in very stressful situations in life where it's life or death situations,
Mhm.
the stresses of civilians are not my stresses. So if
Yeah.
I'll throw out the old Karen, if Karen is complaining because Chelsea is taking 10 minutes on the copy machine, that makes me angry. Like that is not a stressful situation to me. So instead of being irritated, now I just write that down and make a joke about it and then plan it for the recording. And you're going to realize that you're going to find so much material just in your daily life, whatever it may be. You just start jotting stuff down, and that's how we keep our stuff right. We don't do politics. And so I think a lot of people lean towards politics because someone else
It's
is providing
easy.
the story for you, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's an easy target. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. So for us, we like to mix it up. We'll do an urban dictionary word of the day because it's just disgusting and weird. We'll do fan submitted topics. We'll share a story about a guy that was doing $100 scratchers at 7 a.m. on Easter morning. Just whatever we see in life that we think is humorous or aggravating, we make a joke about it, and that's what our content becomes. It's actually a lot, because that's what I was nervous about, is nobody wants to hear me say anything. But the more we've done it, it's taking those small kernels in life and then just over dramatizing them. And people respond pretty well to that. So I think that's my advice, is use anything.
Okay, and let's go ahead and go into what about some of the hurdles that we need to overcome in podcasting, just so people that are getting into this kind of know ahead of time what things they may face in podcasting. What's some of the hurdles out there?
Oh, the biggest hurdle you're going to have is you're putting yourself out there, right? You're taking a chance. And anytime you put yourself out there, there's always going to be someone else to judge you. But what I say is the people that don't get judged are the people that aren't doing anything. So screw them. Forget your haters. You're always going to have somebody say something. It will happen. If you say the sky is blue, there will always be someone to say the sky is green. So don't read the comments. What we like to do is we turn them around. So if we get bad comments or bad reviews, or we have good reviews on the podcast, but on our Facebook page, if someone says something negative, we air it. We don't dox them. We say somebody said this, and then we make a complete joke about it. So what we do is we turn it into ammunition. So again, every single interaction is going to be a story. And so what we've noticed is that that actually weeds out some of that hate. But you are always going to face hate. It is not going away. There's shitty people out there, and you just don't let it affect you. Now, that's easier said than done, but if you are confident in yourself and you're the one looking at yourself at the end of the day in the mirror, nobody can touch that. And at the end of the day, you're doing something and they're doing nothing but sit there and bitch behind a keyboard. So the biggest hurdle is people saying some stupid shit because they feel safe behind a keyboard. So to those people, screw you. But yeah, I'd say that's the biggest hurdle, is feeling judged because you're putting yourself out there. When I talked about stopping drinking and how alcohol affected me, I had an outpouring of support, but I had those people who were like, "Oh, you're a weak bitch," or "You can't control it," or whatever it may be, and screw you.
Try it sometime.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like,
give it a shot, and then tell me.
To not care. Yeah. So if you're comfortable in your skin, then everybody else can go to hell. That's the biggest hurdle.
Yeah, I know. And for me personally, getting past myself and my own reservations is also a big hurdle too, because I'm my biggest critic, and I'll sit there and go through my podcast and just rip myself a new one, saying, "Oh, I should have done this. I should have done this over here. I should have asked this question. I should not have asked this question." So I've noticed too that I can be my own biggest enemy when it comes to podcasting.
Absolutely. That's one of the reasons we do our stuff live and impromptu, because I always will second guess myself. If I write something down, I'll always think, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't say that," or whatever it may be. We run the risk of saying something inappropriate, but so far so good.
That's what disclaimers are for. That's why I got a big ass disclaimer, and
what you're getting into with the Broken Podcast. But I think you can be your own harshest critic and kind of stifle yourself. Don't do that. If you don't like, I wouldn't even. I've done interviews where I don't even watch them because I was like, I botched that. I'm just not even going to watch it. But if you do watch it and you see that kind of thing, use it as fuel, use it as momentum, and change it and say, "I'll never do that again." You can't change the past, so
Yeah, and a lot of times when I check up on my previous podcasts, I'm more looking at audio quality,
Hmm.
technical quality, and stuff like
Right.
that,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and not so much on the content. That's kind of my shift in recent time in reviewing my previous podcasts, is just making sure everything went all right. I mean, earlier
Right. Yeah.
today, we had storms rolling through the area. My audio was shit because the internet was all screwing up. In fact, I don't even know how the audio quality is coming across right now. I mean, between the two of us, it sounds great, but
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
recording end, I might be after I get off here and go through it. It may be half garbled and glitchy. I have no idea yet until I get off here and check it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I have grown a bit in my own podcasting, and to get away from critiquing myself and just looking at the technical aspect of saying, okay, maybe I should try doing this a little bit differently for my audio quality, do
Right. Yeah.
this a little bit differently for viewership, start asking these kind of questions and stuff like that, and getting around myself.
Yep. Yep. Agreed.
Yeah. And just to tie this up, since we're getting close to time, I want to invite the guests, those that are watching the show right now. If you have any questions, go ahead and start posting those right now in the comments section. We're watching the comments right now, and would love to answer any questions you have in the last couple minutes we have of the show. But I did want to go back and talk about the 22 a day, just to tie this up because it's so important to me, so that veterans get help and family members, those that are who have loved ones that are veterans. You got to be watching your buddy six. Because sometimes we have, because of our culture, we have a hard time asking for help.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's just what's been ingrained in us. Yeah, it's not good. Yes, it has gotten better, but we still got a long ways to go when it comes to mental health awareness in the military, because only 1% of us, of the general population, actually serve in the military. So, what is your advice to help prevent that 22 a day?
So when I was at my peak of alcoholism, I was drinking about a fifth of vodka every night, and chasing it with like three monsters.
Hmm.
Um, and instead of facing the things that I needed to face, I just drowned them out and quieted, the inner demons. And I was never suicidal, but I remember this distinctly. This one time, I said, I can see now why that person would pull the trigger or tie that
Hmm.
noose. And when I looked a lot into it with the dopamine levels and serotonin levels and that kind of thing, the dependency on alcohol throws off your mental capacity. It makes you
Yeah,
something else. So if you're having any type of suicidal ideations, or even if you think I'm not worthy of anything, and you're not thinking of killing yourself, but you just think you're not worthy, I guarantee you, almost almost 10 out of 10, you're drinking, or you have been having alcohol. If you feel that way,
yeah,
try
self
stop drinking.
medicating. Yeah,
Yep,
self
try to
medicating.
stop drinking. Your outlook after a couple days will completely turn around.
Yeah,
I think we don't harp enough on how alcohol influences the mind, right? It's like the only drug, if you will, that you have to make an excuse for. Like when I first stopped drinking, I was nervous that somebody would judge me for not drinking. Right?
yeah,
If I don't smoke and someone offers me a cigarette and say, "No, thank you, I don't smoke," it's like, "Oh, okay." If you say, "No, thank you, I don't drink," people are like, "Oh, you must be a raging alcoholic or a Mormon or something," right? Something
yeah,
crazy.
teetotaler. Yeah,
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah,
exactly. But and I think that's the thing. If someone offers me cocaine and I say no, they don't do that. So why are they doing it with alcohol? So
yeah,
basically, if you're having a hard time mentally, try not drinking and drink water instead. And I promise you, that's probably the best first step of of healing. Now, if you're
yeah,
feeling
and
suicidal, definitely call someone, right? But
yeah,
I'm just saying in general, if you see yourself going down that path, um,
yeah.
put the bottle down.
Yeah, exactly. Alcohol is a depressant, and especially if you're mixing medication. If you're
Oh
mixing
yeah,
medication
absolutely.
and alcohol, that is no bueno. As a combat medic, I can tell you it will intensify the side effects of your medication
Oh yeah.
dramatically. If you're not suicidal, those thoughts can pop in your head real quick. I'm a suicide survivor. I survived a suicide attempt due to a bad reaction to medication. It was one of those things where, you see on TV the great ad about how great this medication is, and then they got the disclaimer at the bottom and tiny print saying may cause this, may cause that, and one of those things
Yeah,
in the
they're all
side in the
excited.
fine print is may cause suicidal ideation.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, I was part of that small percentage that had that reaction to this particular psych med. And so when those thoughts pop in your head, the first time they pop in your head, that's when you need to get help.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you are suicidal, but when you start thinking down that road, it's a vicious cycle that will feed into itself over and over again. And
Yeah.
so it's all about breaking the cycle, whether it's
Well,
self-medicating with alcohol and drugs or anything like that. You got to break that cycle.
and therapy isn't going to make you weak. That was one of the connotations that I thought. I thought it was just going to break me down. Now, I cried like a baby in my sessions. I'll be the first one to admit it. But if someone's in front of me and they're making fun of me for that, I'll still beat you in the face. So,
Yeah, yeah,
getting
exactly.
help is not a weakness. It doesn't take away your macho-ness or whatever. Like, I'll still throw down. I'll just be a lot happier while I'm doing it now. So,
Yeah,
if you need therapy, go get therapy. It's so much better than I expected. I can't explain how good it makes you feel, even though
yeah.
you cry like a baby almost every single session.
And it's good because we got to let that stuff out.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
We are at the end of our show. Where can people find your podcast? Because I want to send some people your way.
Yeah, so our podcast is Broken Jarhead or the Broken Podcast. It's on Apple, Spotify. It's everywhere that you're listening to podcasts. You can follow us on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook at Broken Jarhead. And if you're interested in the Veteran Podcast, it's at Veteran Podcast everywhere. So yeah,
Awesome.
come leave some topics.
All right. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and throw you into the back room real quick, and then we'll say our goodbyes.
Cool.
And I'm going to go ahead and do the outro on the show. So go ahead and just stand tight real quick, and I'll be with you in just a second.
Cool.
All right. Thank you again for tuning in to the Bipolar DM podcast. I hope that this was a good broadcast because we've been having some trouble with technical issues and stuff like that today because of weather, and apparently my local internet place doesn't mix well with rain and shit like that. So hopefully this came out really good. This was a great interview. Remember, we got a lot of stuff coming up down the pipe. Next week, we got D&D game coming up. Hopefully the following week after that, we'll have that interview with Dr. Cuso about D&D and therapy. For those of you who are, if you're looking for a safe space, looking for a place that you need to talk to somebody, WLFE-DB.com. We are a safe space for you to talk to, whether you are LGBTQ, in that community, whether you're military, whether you're a teenager, whatever. If you're going through some rough times right now, you need somebody to talk to, you need a safe space, WLFE-DB is one of the places you can go to for that. And we're proud to support that. Let's go ahead and tie this up. Thank you so much for listening. And everybody, remember, take your meds.
Thank you for listening to the Bipolar DM. They love sharing thoughts and ideas. See you next week, 7 p.m. Saturdays on WLFE-DB.com, where our shows are your shows, and that makes for great talk radio. WLFE Digital Broadcast Network is on TV. You can watch all of our shows on WLFE-DB.com. Check out our channels: Paranormal View for all of your paranormal type shows, LGBTQ Friends for all of our LGBTQ shows, Variety Unlimited for all other shows. It runs 24/7 right on WLFE-DB.com. You'll even catch the lives, all in one place. Never miss an episode, past or future. WLFE-DB.com, where our shows are your shows.